So we're going to be really covering today what kind of is pretty invisible or not often talked about in sport, and that's the player's happiness, contentment, his enjoyment of the game. And that really where Paul Pogba's maybe in advance of some of the pack, that he's recognising that there's something there, there's something behind that that's hindering him. So what are you seeing in that, Lewis?
Yeah, he's mentioned, the team spirit that France had during the World Cup, the team spirit that is lacking at Old Trafford, it seems. And he mentioned his happiness. And I think kind of me as a player and other players would describe, happiness is not walking around smiling, laughing and joking the whole time, but it's more of, if people fall out, you still know that that's going to be resolved and you're going to all move in the same direction. And in an ideal world at Manchester United, you'd like the chairman, the manager, the fans and the players to all be pushing in the same direction. And that seems like, it's not quite there at the moment. And he's recognised that. And he sees that as an important factor in him reaching his top performances, which is really interesting thing to say, because like you said, in sport quite often that is a bit of a grey area. They're not quite sure what team spirit is, not quite sure confidence. Can I give someone a strategy to get more confidence? So I think from my point of view as a player, I'd always want to go out and play completely free, and if I was caught up in my mind, know that is temporary, rather than being locked into that and that really take control of my kind of performance. So I think he's noticed the difference between the two. Definitely he'd prefer everyone together like the French squad, but then it comes to kind of the players' perspective. You need to look at that when the outside influences are taking over your own performances.
Yeah, it's got to be quite amazing to him now coming back into the United team, and seeing such a stark difference from, obviously they finished on a high with France. They got a strong bond and connection with everybody. He comes back training and things are not the same. He's noticing that unity or that oneness, among the team is completely at odds with what he's just experienced. And the mistake I think that I'm hearing people making or suggesting, that commenting on this, that really are experts within a technical game, have played themselves, but not necessarily on their mindset or understanding from a neurological point of view what's happening. But Paul coming back and being able to replicate that for himself for United, and people thinking it was actually Jose's job to unlock it, or somehow he's the one who's in charge of everybody's performance on the pitch, and it's up to him to get it out of the players, as opposed to the players to do their job essentially and just show up and play well.
Yeah, definitely, and I can see that. Like in an ideal world, you have a good relationship with the manager, and you'll both be pushing to increase the team performance and increase your own performance. And I can say, in the past, that managers I've had, when they're on board and they're actively looking for you to improve as a player, there's nothing better. But that doesn't happen all the time in football. Managers have got a lot of other things on their mind, and sometimes it's quicker for them just to bring someone else in than help you progress in your game. So I get that it's results driven. You need to perform within a short spell of 2 months, or you could be out of the door. But yeah, I think it's one way to look at it, that the manager is in charge of that, but then ultimately it comes down to the player's perception. So helping players adjust to that, not the ideal environment, maybe criticism from fans, maybe a loss of form, and just making them more resilient is what we're all about at Lit Within. So it's kind of, we're looking to highlight that which is something that is not often talked about in the media. It's kind of brushed over quickly. Team spirit, what is that? Okay, I'm not really sure. We just brush over it. So to me, it's a performance level. If you're going to reach there consistently, that you need to kind of understand that it's all about your own perspective. Yeah. And then you are not reliant on anyone else, and you can create your own team around you, like top players like Ronaldo have done, on the mental side of the game, the physical side of the game, recovery, all these kinds of things. And you can know that you can go into any club, any environment, and your performance levels are going to be up there, even if that team is not quite as good as some of the others you've played with,
Yeah, this is definitely what we want to make sure players understand more widely, that the ones that we're talking to and working with, that there's a already starting to get a bit of an understanding that those that know that is the mental game is important, having the right head. And what I think I'd like people to understand that's different about this is that we're not looking to strategies or things that you can do to manage that. It's more understanding the neuroscience of your own psychology, if you like, or what's really happening, how things are functioning. And that's where the leverage is. It's not digging into the nitty gritty as to, well, why might you be down? What's actually the situation? Why are you upset with Jose if you are, or is it somebody else? I'm not trying to get into that story, but simply explaining to people kind of how our minds actually work and function. And that is freeing in and of itself. That's what gives you the access to your own, if you like, your freedom to play at your best, to give your best, to put in your best performance. And that is something that is, because it's skimmed over, not enough people are aware of it. Everyone, therefore, has got opinions like they have in the rest of the game when they're talking about, whether people played well, and a very subjective experience of what is happening on the pitch. This is much more objective in terms of this is really what's going on.
Yeah, definitely. And, it talks a lot to the superstitious element within football and wider sport that we're grasping. Is our performance related to how I tie my boots up? Is my performance related to, what I eat before a game and the rest of it? So it's really bedding down in how does my experience work? How am I able to perceive other players on the pitch? How the outside circumstances are processed in our own mind. And at the moment, there's kind of a back to front thinking within the sports world that it's all dependent on circumstance, environment, and the rest of it. But then we point to players like Ronaldo has been, various clubs and performed time after time, even with mountains of perceived external pressure. So we know that it is not a fact, and it's all down to how you perceive every situation. And for someone like Paul Pogba, he's achieved great things in the game. I think that they would really get a benefit and see that I'm capable of reaching my level in spite of broken down relationships and having the ideal relationship within the changing room with all the players, and the team spirit is high. So
that's what we really want to bring to people, isn't it? That there's essentially the players like that can move from club to club, that give their best over a long career. They still have ups and downs, sure, but they're fundamentally performing at a very high level for their entire career. It's because they're taking that A1 Paul Pogba, for example, with them wherever they go, because the A1 Paul Pogba resides within him, not residing in having a great manager or having a great teammate. All that is what is built up, or an outcome, if you like, of players showing up at their best, enjoying the game, and is essentially being happy and content, with what they're doing and their experience on and off the pitch.
Yeah, that's a great point. The A1 Paul Pogba can turn up wherever he goes, and on some level, players do know that, because they can go and have a kick around with their friends and know they're still capable of pulling out any trick that they've got. Or defending in any type of manner, or having great positioning, and I think that the more they can see that this is me, I can turn up at an away ground where the fans are shouting abuse at me for the whole game, but they can't touch my performance.
Yeah,
and the manager can't touch my performance.
Sorry, yeah. So I think this is what we want to say, isn't it? That you kind of, to enable players to realise that that's what's on offer for you to bring your A game, more often, more reliably, more of the time. And if that's something that you might have touched upon or tried techniques or situations that were going to help you resolve that, this is a fresh and new approach that actually can enable that to happen. So if that's you, this is the right conversation, and we look forward to connecting.